The episode begins by introducing a widely known superstition that cherished objects harbor souls. Following this logic, discarded items in the trash must also house something. However, the true nature of this something remains a mystery to humanity. The scene cuts to a girl from a wealthy family. She looks at her beloved teddy bear, now torn, feeling deep sadness. Not knowing what to do, she looks at her mother, who suggests they throw the bear away and buy a new one. Without hesitation, the girl heads outside and tosses the bear into the trash along with several other bags of waste. Meanwhile, a security guard is patrolling a building when he suddenly hears a strange noise. Investigating, he finds a boy rummaging through the building's trash. Quickly, he pulls out his gun and points it at the boy, warning that the area requires authorized access. After analyzing the situation, the guard realizes that this boy is the infamous trash thief, a criminal known for making the city filthy with his illegal waste collection. Recognizing the threat, the security guard calls for backup, which arrives almost instantly. But the trash thief, with remarkable skill, escapes through a hidden passage. The guards chase after him, firing their weapons, but the boy dodges the bullets with ease and vanishes into the sewers. After escaping, the boy removes his hood, revealing his true identity. "I'm not the trash thief," he calmly states. The next day, a group of people discusses the previous day's events, linking Rudo, the boy chased by security, to the notorious trash thief. Meanwhile, Rudo finds himself in one of the dirtiest parts of the city when he overhears people talking about him. They believe he's the one responsible for what happened the day before. This frustrates the men around him as the pressure is mounting. They know the apostle might come after them soon. Suddenly, a girl named Chiwa approaches Rudo and begins scolding him. "What the hell are you doing digging through trash again? If you keep this up, you're going to get yourself into serious trouble," she warns. "Why do you keep scavenging the city's garbage?" Rudo responds, explaining that the rich throw away things that still have value, and he can't stand it. He also needs money to survive. These two reasons drive him to keep doing what he does, even though it might bring him trouble in the future. At that moment, a group of boys approaches, and one of them starts mocking Rudo. He makes fun of the fact that Rudo smells like trash and tells Chiwa to stay away from him if she doesn't want to smell like him too. The boy notices that Rudo is still wearing the same dirty gloves and mocks him further, saying touching those gloves is like asking for scabies. Another boy kicks an item that Rudo had repaired and laughs. Who in their right mind would buy something from the trash, especially if it's been fixed by someone like him wearing such filthy gloves? Seeing how the boys are treating Rudo, Chiwa steps in, telling them they aren't so different from him. She reminds them they don't have the right to judge him. The boy continues, telling them not to get involved with Rudo because he's the son of a maniac killer. One of the other boys explains that the place they live in, the slums, was originally created to imprison criminals. They, the young people there, are descendants of the prisoners who were held there in the past. Therefore, they have to work twice as hard to earn some dignity in society. But all the effort they had put in up until now would have been ruined by Rudo's father, who, for some reason, went around killing people. Hearing this, Rudo finally reacts to the boys' insults, glaring at them with an intense, unsettling look. The boys, now intimidated, decide to leave, thinking Rudo is just like his father. Chiwa, noticing this, tries to reassure Rudo, telling him he'll never be like his father in the future. Rudo, feeling a bit embarrassed, thanks her for believing in him. Suddenly, Chiwa finds the teddy bear that Rudo had repaired, buried in the trash, and shows interest in it. Rudo, a little shy but determined, decides to give it to her as a gift. But before he can do so, Chiwa's mother approaches and calls her to go home. As they prepare to leave, Chiwa's mother scolds her for associating with people like Rudo. Rudo then goes back home to live with his friend, Regto. Once home, Regto teases Rudo, mocking him for trying to give the teddy bear to Chiwa. Rudo turns red with embarrassment. Regto advises him to be more direct about what he wants to say. He then shifts the conversation to Rudo's late-night trips to scavenge for trash. Regto makes it clear that Rudo doesn't have to keep rummaging through trash to make a living. After all, Regto is willing to support him while he's still a kid. Even though they aren't related by blood, Regto considers Rudo as part of his family. He tells Rudo not to worry too much about working, but hearing this, Rudo remembers how Regto took him in when his biological parents abandoned him as a baby. For that reason, Rudo wants to repay Regto for everything he's done for him. To do that, he feels he must work as well. Suddenly, Regto notices a wound on Rudo's arm, and after examining it, realizes Rudo got shot, though just a graze. He insists that Rudo stop going to the dumps, as things could spiral out of control. If he's not careful, the next time he could end up in a much worse situation. Rudo pulls off his gloves, saying the shot is nothing compared to the scars on his hands, scars caused by his father. Having dealt with this kind of issue since childhood, Rudo's mind has never been at peace. When Regto realized what was bothering Rudo, he decided to give him a pair of gloves, which Rudo still wears today, even though they are worn out. Shifting the topic, Regto mentions Chiwa and advises Rudo to confess his feelings to her. If he doesn't act fast, someone else quicker than him might steal her away. The boy isn't happy at all with what Regto said, and simply brushes him off. The next day, Rudo walks through the junkyard again, explaining that this place, also known as the Abyss, is the most notorious haven for criminals. It's where everyone who commits a crime ends up, thrown away like trash. Suddenly, as Rudo witnesses another person being condemned to the Abyss, he's caught off guard by Chiwa, who immediately notices the overwhelming filth surrounding them. However, Rudo reminds her that this mess stretches all across the slums. After all, the place was built and oriented towards the city to show just how bad the slums are. This was done to deter people from falling into crime and ending up in the slums. But beyond that, Chiwa complains about how they expose the executions of prisoners. She asks Rudo never to do something that would get him thrown into the abyss and executed in the same manner. She advises him again not to take unnecessary risks to avoid getting caught by the authorities. Hearing this, Rudo mentions that Regto gave him the same advice. Chiwa responds, saying that Regto must really care about him. This makes Rudo realize a little more about what she really thinks of him. However, Chiwa starts blushing and tries to explain herself better. Seeing an opportunity, Rudo gathers his courage and gives her the teddy bear as a gift, saying that the toy will be much happier with her than being discarded in the trash. Chiwa takes the teddy bear from his hands, promising that she will take care of it forever. Rudo, now feeling a rush of embarrassment, quickly runs off. But just as he's about to get away, he bumps into a group of apostles. They immediately ignore him and continue on their way. Rudo, confused by the apostles' presence in the slums, gets up and starts running towards Hagot to tell him that he managed to give the teddy bear to Chiwa. But when he opens the door, he comes face to face with a strange creature on top of Regto, the same one he saw the other day. However, this time, it's killing his friend. Rudo tries to attack the masked man but is quickly subdued and thrown aside with a single punch, knocking him unconscious. When Rudo wakes up, he sees the mysterious man picking up a notebook from the floor and slowly heading toward the door to leave the house. Seeing this, Rudo curses the masked man, but finds himself unable to take any action, as he too was attacked. He then orders the masked figure to go back inside the house so they can finish resolving the issue. However, the man ignores him and leaves the place. Regto calls out to Rudo, telling him that he needs to find a way to change the broken world they live in. But shortly after saying those words, Regto loses his strength and dies in Rudo's arms. Then, the apostles invade the house and arrest Rudo, accusing him of being responsible for Regto's death. As they get the wrong idea, Rudo tries to explain what happened, insisting he wasn't the one responsible for the murder. One of the apostles gets even more frustrated and makes it clear that Rudo won't escape being thrown into the dungeon by simply lying. Later that afternoon, the local residents find out about the supposed murder committed by Rudo, and they immediately buy into the story without even hearing his side. Rudo is condemned to death for killing Regto. As the sentence is announced, everyone around him begins celebrating, shouting for him to be thrown straight into the abyss of the junkyard. Rudo is left confused about the fate awaiting him, especially when he realizes that, despite not having done anything, the crowd is cheering for his death. Suddenly, he spots Chiwa in the crowd and pleads for her to find the real killer of Regto. But Chiwa turns her back on him, expressing her disappointment. She thought he was different from his father. In that moment, Rudo is consumed by despair and accepts his fate. But then he spots Regto's real killer right in front of him in the middle of the crowd. Before he can say anything to the man, he's suddenly thrown into the abyss. During the fall, Rudo promises that he will send all of humanity to hell for what they've made him go through, but then he hits the ground and loses consciousness. When Rudo wakes up after the fall, he's confused by his surroundings. Then it hits him. He's been thrown into the abyss after being sentenced to death. Suddenly, he hears a noise coming from behind. When he turns around, he comes face to face with a gigantic monster made entirely of the trash around him. After being cast into that hell, Rudo began to ponder a truth he always found unsettling. People cared little for the grime and the criminal, yet he had never truly considered the fate of those who fell into the abyss. Rudo had always heard those around him dismiss the condemned as disposable tribals, individuals who committed crimes knowing their inevitable end. Thus, no one truly cared for these people. Now, in his current predicament, Rudo found himself sprinting away from a colossal trash creature. The monster, however, wasted no time in catching up to him. Rudo skillfully dodged its attacks while attempting to escape, but when he stumbled headfirst into a skull, Rudo's irritation at being thrown into this place intensified. He also complained about the abysmal air, fearing it would irrevocably damage his lungs if he continued to breathe the impure atmosphere. Rudo resolved to flee this place as swiftly as possible. Noticing no safe haven in sight, a chilling sensation ran down his spine as he realized he was in an entirely different world. Suddenly, the creature from before began to approach him. Rudo, believing there was nothing left to be done, decided to surrender to death. But just as he contemplated giving up, Rudo remembered Regto. He extended his hand, instinctively reaching for his weapon, in a desperate final attempt to cling to life. As he regained his footing, Rudo declared that one crucial task remained. He would make those who had scorned him and cast him into the abyss suffer immensely. However, Rudo clarified that Regto's killer topped his list of individuals who deserved to die. As he seethed with hatred, the creature attacked Rudo once more, but was met with a precise punch. Meanwhile, a man observed the boy from a distance through binoculars, questioning whether the boy could truly handle this desolate place. After exchanging a few more blows with the monster, Rudo grew utterly fed up with the seemingly endless combat, his patience wearing thin with both the creature and his surroundings. He began to attack the enemy with increased intensity, but received a direct hit that sent him flying. Rudo coughed up blood. The creature seized this moment of vulnerability to strike, but ultimately suffered the worst. Rudo finally cleaved the monster in two, bringing the battle to an abrupt end. Exhausted and gasping for breath, he collapsed to the ground, relieved that the fight was seemingly over. However, immediately after, another monster began to lumber towards the boy, indicating it had not been entirely eliminated. Witnessing this, Rudo despaired and began to flee, but eventually collapsed again, utterly devoid of strength. The boy looked up to see a man with an umbrella staring down at him. However, due to the mask, Rudo could not recognize his face. The mysterious man then threw Rudo to the ground once more, causing him to cough up blood. Rudo deduced that this being was merely another enemy and demanded to know what he was doing. Seeing this, the man placed a mask on the boy and walked away without a word. Rudo, still bewildered, asked if the man was from this place and what exactly this location was. Although the man understood all the questions posed to him, he gestured with his hand, commanding the boy to remain silent. But being prevented from speaking or questioning, Rudo's curiosity intensified, and he asked again what this strange world was. Once more, the man told him to be quiet. Rudo then provided more context to the situation, explaining that he had fallen into the abyss and, being new to the place, understood nothing around him. He asked what this subterranean world was, a universe completely alien to anything he had ever witnessed. Hearing this, the man stated that the place was not subterranean and also told him to stop shouting. Rudo, however, retorted that the man was speaking too softly and asked him to speak louder when addressing him. At this, the man completely lost his patience, shouting just like Rudo, declaring that the place was not subterranean, but rather the surface. the complete opposite of what Rudo had assumed. Furthermore, the man explained that all the trash consisted of items that the Celestials had discarded there. He then blamed the monsters residing there squarely on the Celestial. He even included Rudo in the same category, implying that Rudo was also responsible for the creature's appearance in the abyss. Witnessing this, Rudo's eyes widened in disbelief, as he had never imagined that something of this nature could be his fault. The man then explained that the creatures were called trash beasts, monsters that thrived amidst the refuse. Besides being incredibly strong, these creatures could not be killed with conventional weapons and possessed exceptionally powerful hearing. Therefore, they needed to exercise caution to avoid unnecessary noises, such as shouting in the abyss, which Rudo had been doing moments before. The man then severely reprimanded the boy for attracting a monster to their location, but simultaneously wielded his umbrella as a weapon and launched an attack, demonstrating his ability to effortlessly defeat the monster when he chose to. After transforming the umbrella and witnessing the creature's defeat with a single blow, Rudo was surprised, noting that this time the monster was not returning to life as it had when he had defeated it. Rudo remained perplexed about the umbrella the man used in combat, questioning its nature internally. The man then confronted a new horde of mutilated beasts, but managed to eliminate them all with minimal effort. Observing this, Rudo deduced that the umbrella was either a special piece of abyss technology or that the man possessed a rare weapon. Remembering his enemies, Rudo mused that he could easily defeat them if he possessed such a powerful weapon. After finally dispatching the monsters, the masked man returned to Rudo, relieved to find the boy still alive. Rudo then inquired, "Who exactly is that man?" At this, the man removed his mask and introduced himself as Engine, a mere janitor of the abyss. After removing his mask, Engine bitterly regretted his decision and began to cough violently from all the radiation emanating from the trash. He then reprimanded Rudo once more, stating that Rudo had caused him to remove his mask. The boy briefly recalled a conversation he had with Regto, during which Rudo had returned home with his clothes completely soiled. Regto immediately noticed the grime and inquired about what had happened. Rudo explained that he had been thrown to the ground by some boys after asserting that inanimate objects possessed life. In his view, objects gained a soul when cherished and cared for by their owner. However, Regto countered that this was merely a legend passed down to encourage people to take better care of their belonging, not a factual truth. Despite this, Regto made it clear that he believed the story, stating that Rudo's towel remained dry only because he meticulously cared for it. The same principle applied to the glove he was wearing. Returning to the present, Rudo found himself chained after losing consciousness. Upon looking around, he realized that Engine was responsible for his predicament. Engine had needed a way to transport the boy, even while he was unconscious. Now awake, Rudo pleaded with Engine to unchain him, as he needed to return to the place above the abyss. But Engine explained that the upper world was perceived as paradise by those in the abyss. Therefore, Rudo could not simply go there whenever he pleased. He added that there were other reasons preventing Rudo from reaching his desired location, but Engine would only disclose that much for the time being. He instructed Rudo to get more sleep, as he would be carried. Although Engine attempted to extinguish the boy's hopes, Rudo affirmed that he would reach paradise regardless of the obstacles he encountered. He clung to the phrase, "For now, there's no way," uttered by Engine, as it implied a future method for him to return to his origin. Rudo then demanded to know everything Engine knew about that world, paradise, and the monsters they had faced. Rudo intended to leverage this knowledge to aid his revenge against humanity. Fed up with Rudo's incessant and idiotic questions, Engine decided to stop ignoring him and led him to a place where he could find all his answers. But after leaving him there, Engine turned his back on Rudo and began to walk away. Suddenly, more people arrived, and one girl approached Rudo asking where he had come from. The girl replied that she had fallen from paradise. Upon hearing this, everyone was astonished, never imagining they would have the opportunity to see a celestial up close. However, after the initial moment of surprise, the men revealed that they were not as benevolent as they initially appeared. Instead of helping Rudo, they forcibly placed him in a car trunk, intending to sell him for a substantial price. The men explained that Celestials fetched a high price due to the widespread hatred towards them, as they were responsible for all the trash in the abyss. One man then attempted to force rotten trash food into Rudo's mouth, aiming to humiliate him before the actual sale. However, as he placed a piece of putrid meat into the boy's mouth, Rudo bit the man's fingers, tearing off all the flesh and leaving only bone. Rudo began to realize that regardless of his location, the people around him remained scum. Infuriated, he shattered his shackles with the radiating power emanating from him. Subsequently, Rudo touched the chains, imbuing them with life. The man whose fingers had been destroyed by the boy was enraged to see Rudo still standing, and furthermore, that the boy had consumed his fingers. He ordered his henchmen to kill the boy, but ultimately, all of them were defeated by Rudo, who even created a living wheel to run over one of them. Rudo continued to advance towards the gang leader, who, despite being at a disadvantage, persisted in insulting Rudo for being a Celestial. He certainly should not have been doing this, as Rudo was in berserk mode and would undoubtedly kill him. Rudo, utterly fed up, prepared to genuinely kill the man, but Engine intervened just in time, stating that he had placed Rudo in that situation because he wanted to test him. Now that Rudo had passed his test, Engine offered to reveal everything about that world to the boy, as well as the power Rudo had just utilized. In return, he asked the boy to become a janitor, just like him. My friend, he simply bit the guy's finger, tearing off all the skin, leaving only bone. That was insane. And that's where the video ends. Remember to click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching. See you next time.